I'm thinking industrial, but not cold, right?
Right.
So like that Shea McGee kind of spin. I always saw her as more of an industrial
Classic
modern
contemporary.
Oh, there you go.
that what that
Good
is?
job, Karla.
My goodness.
Wow, I think we're done. Welcome to the Art of Custom from Hibbs Homes. In this episode, we are talking design. Whether you like modern mountain or modern farmhouse, we've got you covered. We talk with Utah client Elizabeth Sayer about her beautiful mountain home and the process of bringing her style to life. Then, our very own designers Ann and Karla join us to share their expertise on these unique designs in our different markets. Enjoy.
Forget about Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. Today we have the ultimate fight. A battle for the ages, if you will. Both are stunning. Both are timeless. In the red corner, coming in with sleek lines and floor-to-ceiling windows paired with the warmth and movement of wood and natural stone, say hello to Modern Mountain. And in the blue corner, exploding onto the scene with HGTV but blending a timeless Americana with contemporary style, welcome your challenger, Modern Farmhouse.
That was excellent.
Melody, I'm going to come up with a baseball analogy here because you knocked it out of the park.
Well, thank you very much. It was a lot of fun.
This is going to be a fun podcast because not only do we have one of our favorite projects and favorite clients of all time as we look back at 20 homes over the past 20 years, but we also get to bring our design team back into the mix, which I know you kind of had to do kicking and screaming a little bit.
Absolutely, but they're a lot of fun. So
We're talking about Ann and Karla from the St. Louis office.
From our St. Louis market. So it's, I mean, it's kind of the perfect bridge between the two markets because
Right.
they do have very unique styles and very location-centric styles that, I mean, you could always build a modern mountain home here in St. Louis, but there are definitely going to be elements that are going to be different.
Right, and that's why I think the Modern Farmhouse fits in seamlessly here.
Right.
Whereas the Modern Mountain, obviously out in our Park City market. So it's interesting that when we were talking about potential topics for our podcast, this is one that you came up with, and I was on board with it from the beginning.
I think we have two really great projects to talk about, too. I know we really wanted to talk about the Sayer project, which we're going to talk about first. And so that's really where the idea was born from. And then we do so many modern farmhouse projects here in St. Louis, and they're all so unique. From the outside, you know, you can tell it's a modern farmhouse, but you get inside and our designers do some incredible things with touches. And so Mentel is it's almost, I mean, the model for modern farmhouse in some ways. But Ann, who is with us later in the podcast, is going to tell us about that project and some of the neat approaches. And they're also going to help us with some of the updates too, because it is something that's not going to go out of style. So.
I was going to say, you can say modern farmhouse or even modern mountain, but quite frankly, the finishes are timeless.
Absolutely.
And that's the key because, what we try to help everybody understand, if you're going to design your perfect home, design it to your liking, design it to your style, and don't worry if you think something's going to go out of date. Now, can it? Sure, but you can always do a renovation, down the road if you need to. But we're talking about finishes that will be around for a very long time.
And Ann and Karla have some tips on how to kind of bring trend-ish into your design without committing to a point where you're going to hate it in 10 years too. So.
Interesting, because I know that the Sayer project, which we're going to talk about first, Elizabeth Sayer was the client there. She was absolutely wonderful to work with. She was, spearheading the project for her family, huge family, and so that'll be fun to talk with her. She worked with Lydia Huffman from LH Design, which is one of our go-to designers for our Utah projects. And Lydia, I know her, and talking with her, shares some of the same feelings as Ann and Karla when it comes to the design aspect, when it comes to timelessness, and quite frankly, when it comes to making the selection of things that you really know and love.
And each of these homes, you can really see personality in. Even though they are kind of emblematic of their individual styles, you can get a sense of who lives there when you take a look inside. So
yeah, and we're going to start with Elizabeth Sayer. She is one of our Park City clients who built a home that took modern mountain style and made it very unique to her family. Thank you for joining us, Elizabeth. It's really nice to talk with you. Let's start by talking about what inspired you and the family to decide to build a brand new home in the Park City area instead of purchasing one.
My in-laws really wanted a place where the whole family could gather. There's a big, mass amount of us, and they had 5 boys. So when we all gather, there's 20 people, and it's hard to come by a house that you can accommodate that many people with everyone getting their own space. They wanted everyone to have their own space when they came to visit.
And I remember the design process, which you were in charge of for the family, and it was great working with you on that. You were very intentional. You were very purposeful about how you designed this house. So everybody had enough room, but yet you were able to kind of separate everybody out at the same time.
Yeah, the whole point was to have gathering spaces, multiple, so not everyone doesn't have to be all in one place. We can kind of section off a bit, but everyone has their own bedrooms to escape to if they're done. If we've had too much together time. And there's just lots of great spaces in this house.
And what I love about the house too is there are so many beautiful what we all call mountain modern homes being built in the Park City area. But what I love about your home is it still has a little bit more of a rustic feel, rustic flair, especially the exterior. But the interior is absolutely gorgeous. And it does have that much more contemporary feel to it. And that was, again, designed on purpose.
My mother-in-law's taste is a little more traditional, and my father-in-law is more modern, and I just was hoping to combine the two so they both felt really comfortable and wanted to spend time in a space.
Did you get their blessing when the house was finished and everybody got a chance to take a look at the final product and all?
Yes, my mother-in-law really fought the idea of this house, as you know. She was like, I'm never going to spend time there. It's whatever. But then as soon as she was in the house with everyone, it just was exactly what they were looking for.
And I remember the first time you all spent together in the house was Thanksgiving, and then you spent time over the Christmas holiday as well. What was that like?
Most of us were together for Thanksgiving, and everyone instantly was like, we're doing this next year, right? Like, it's so fun to all be together. Like, most of the cousins live a few hours from each other, but my boys don't get to see their cousins very often. So it's really special to be able to come together all at once and have everyone, not have to go off to their separate places, but like really spend days together. And yeah, that's something you can't really recreate without a special space like this.
Mm-hmm. So what are the most important features that you included in the design, functionality, and lifestyle of the home? What do you think those most important features were?
The first thing that came to my mind, and you're going to laugh, is there's TVs in every room. We're
Yes,
a big
there are.
TV family. It's a point of gathering, right? There's always sports on. I mean, that sounds silly, but it really is like important to have spaces that you can have the TV on and everyone can be there and converse also. And I think as I've spent more time here, I just see that outdoor space, especially as the weather gets warmer, like such an awesome space that I see everyone spending tons of time together out there, like in the hot tub and at the fire, like just spending nights out there. I'm excited about that.
Did the Park City area, if you think about the climate, the topography, kind of the culture, the vibe of Park City, did it influence the design of the home at all, or was this more family-centered?
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to not be inspired by the mountains. I feel like everything is centered around the view of the mountains and like the landscape and everything, and blending into that landscape is really important, and not just creating whatever you feel in a certain space. It kind of has to fit the space. And I think it blended a lot of the modern and the mountain together. So
Yeah, it's done beautifully, and you're talking about your view. The view is quite frankly the best in the Sky Ridge development. The view you have of Deer Valley and the Jordanelle and that the Heber Valley and all is just absolutely spectacular. And I know that the outdoor experience was something that was important for you all as well. Outdoor kitchen, fireplace, as you mentioned before, hot tub, heaters. It's just you can live as much on the outside as you can on the inside year round, because I know one of the things you wanted as well were this was the snow melt for the exterior patio, so you could spend year round outside enjoying that outdoor environment.
Yeah, and we're not here every day of the week. So when we show up, we don't want to spend our time shoveling. But being able to like be on the patio or go in the hot tub and not have to worry about snow drifts on your way in, or, just being able to go out and enjoy the fire while it's snowing outside, like that's amazing. Just experiencing all of outside, no matter the weather.
Tough question coming up because it's such a beautiful home, so many beautiful finishes. Pick out one or two of your favorite finishes, if you will. What do you feel like is your favorite of this house?
Oh, that is so hard.
I know it is. I warned you.
I mean, I love this office space. I think my all-time favorite, though, it's a combination of finishes in the master bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
This combination of the stones in there, it just feels really modern, but also inviting. It's very
Absolutely.
simple, and that would be my favorite.
I really like the vertical applications that you did around your fireplaces, your kitchen, where you went floor to ceiling or up to the ceiling in the kitchen and the backsplash. The solid material, it is absolutely gorgeous, and that touch was just was beautifully done. I know you worked with Lydia Huffman with LH Design, and you all collaborated exceptionally well. And I think you made a really good team. And I have to believe that collaboration was one that you enjoyed working with her and seeing the finished product too.
Totally. I tell everyone who asks, and even people who don't ask, that we had an awesome team and everyone just collaborated together to get the best product and the best space for our family. And I'm so grateful.
Something else that's very unique, very beautiful, and adds a really nice personal touch to the home are the paintings, the artwork that were commissioned by a Salt Lake City, if I'm not mistaken, artist. Talk about the importance of that for you and Mimi and the family.
I mean, art is really very important to us. Mimi has so much art, and my father-in-law wanted the art in this home to just, reflect some of his like more modern, but also blend a lot of her more traditional. We wanted to support local artists specifically, and then also have something really unique to the family. The piece that you're talking about in the entryway has everyone's names incorporated, special places to our family. It's just one of a kind. And Lydia did a great job coordinating that for us, all the art in this house. There's so many great pieces. It was a really fun process to pick all of that out.
It was a fun process, and it's a very detailed process when you're trying to, make sure you have your lighting in the right locations and where the actual artwork is going to be hung and things like that. There was a lot of back and forth, and quite frankly, we had to redo some of it because when you were going to the time, trouble, effort, and energy you all did to commission this artwork to be hung in the house, it had to be perfect. And if we didn't, rough it in properly, we had to move it. It just had to be done because in the end, it's what does the finished product look like? So let's talk about if you're helping others who are going to build their dream home in Park City or wherever. Are there things that you are glad that you invested in that others might not think about? Talk about that a little bit and give them a piece of advice.
Yeah, in Park City specifically, I am really glad that we invested in the radiant heating of the driveways. In the winter, it's not fun to have to shovel your driveway as much as you have to in Park City. So that's like a really big one. And then we did radiant floor heating all throughout the house. And that has been really amazing just for comfort, but also for efficiency and my kids and one of the other cousins has asthma, it's really nice to not have all the dust and debris from, construction that kind of lingers hanging around the house. And that has been a really amazing part of the house.
Well, talk about the process itself, working with the architect, working with the builder, working with Lydia, everything coming together. Was it what you expected? Was it better? Was it worse? I mean, be honest, just talk about that.
Yeah, I would say it was better, to be honest. Any project has its hiccups, especially custom projects. Like, it's the first time anyone has built a house like this, So there's always going to be problems, but I feel like we put together a good team that really problem solved quickly and effectively. And Lydia was great at coming out and doing site visits for us. And you guys were good at keeping us in the loop. And Jeff did an amazing job, designing this space for us. I really think that having a team that collaborates together, even if everyone is individually really good at what they do, if you don't have a team that can collaborate together, it's a lot harder to get something done. So I feel like we did something right, getting a great team together that really collaborates together to get things done.
That was beautifully said. And we feel the same way. We now have worked with Lydia on a number of projects and Jeff as well. And you're spot on, just putting that team together up front and relying on each other and helping each other. It's really the way to go. And we've talked about that many times on our podcast over the 7 seasons. And that's one of the main reminders we have for anybody who's building is put that team together up front and work together. Anything from a challenging standpoint, what were the challenges maybe that was unexpected that you could kind of, let people know that are building a custom home to be prepared for?
Honestly, for me, one of the biggest challenges was just the time commitment. And for over a year and a half, committing to showing up and being on site or in meetings with 3 young kids. I think I underestimated the amount of time that it takes. I knew it was going to take a lot of time and effort, but just getting through it.
Even as we're taping this, you have one of your son is kind of playing tug of war with you. So yeah. I'm going to say thank you for your time. You do have a beautiful family. I'm glad they're enjoying the beautiful home. Take your time to now go take care of your kids. And just thank you, Elizabeth, for everything over the past couple of years during the design phase, the construction phase and all. And thank you for taking the time to talk with us on our podcast too.
Thanks, Kim.
Just love that story. Love the family. Love the way the house turned out. Absolutely beautiful. Modern Mountain fits seamlessly into the Park City market. But now we're going to shift gears just a little bit, aren't we?
We are. We're going to get into the modern farmhouse design, and it's going to be fun.
It will be fun. We've done several homes in the St. Louis area from a modern farmhouse design, and I really look forward to your conversation when you are able to get Ann and Karla, our dynamic dual design team from the St. Louis market, to sit down and have a conversation about the modern farmhouse.
You mean let the inmates run the asylum?
Yeah, I won't tell everybody how many takes it took, but here you go. Listen up, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Ann and Karla, thanks for joining me today to chat about modern mountain home versus modern farmhouse design. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of use to couch the discussion is the Mentel home that we built here in Town and Country, Missouri. And Ann was actually the designer on it. But the reason we have Karla in is because you've done quite a few modern farmhouses, and all of them are different. A lot of people have kind of the impression that, hey, modern farmhouse has this, this, and this. And while there are hallmarks, there are ways for people to put their personal spin on it. And we're talking about the Mentel house. And Ann, tell me a little bit about the clients that you worked with. It was kind of one of your first projects here at Hips Homes, wasn't it?
It was one of my first ones, and the Mentels were wonderful, super nice people. And they actually, to be clear, they did bring their own designer in. So I was the Hibbs designer on the project, but they did have a wonderful designer that they worked with. And they just loved this modern farmhouse look of, the board and batten siding on the exterior of the house, all white, simple, classic farmhouse look. And then
worked with their designer and myself to just bring that into the inside of the home. And then once we finished all the selections, their designer furnished the entire house too, which I think is what gave them a lot of their own personal touches that kind of warmed it up a bit.
From the outside, it is almost the model of modern farmhouse with, like you said, the board and batten siding and the metal roofing and things like that. But there are some finishes even before it was furnished that kind of set it apart, made it a little bit different than what you'd see on like the HGTV, Joanna Gaines kind of spin. And Karla, I feel like you have a lot of houses like that too, that like the Olms house. It literally looks like a cute little farmhouse set out in a field when you're on the outside, but you get on the inside and there's some elevated touches that bring the modern farmhouse in there, but almost rustic in a way.
Yeah, I think when you use a clean shaker-style cabinet, and then you pair that with like rustic beams or wide plank floors, that kind of gives you the modern farmhouse look.
What do you think are some of the key elements that you used in Mentel that made it kind of set it apart on the inside? Because it does look different even when it's not furnished. So what are some of the unique pieces that you remember from that house?
I think the things that made it very modern farmhouse were, again, the shaker-style cabinets. We did a white kitchen, but then warmed it up with a wood island. And I think the lighting that was selected really, really made the house unique. There were some beautiful light fixtures that gave it some style and personality and really worked well against, that very modern farmhouse white, simple backdrop. And also a lot of things like contrasting wood within the built-in backing of the shelving and beautiful, beautiful mantle that was done, very clean-lined wood mantle itself. But then we did a little herringbone contrasting tile inset. And I think things like that, of course, the black doors, black window frames, that was all very much in keeping with the modern farmhouse. Stainless steel appliances. But then again, we mixed a lot of metals with lighting and hardware, which I think helped to kind of soften that up.
The modern farmhouse style, is it a trend or is it something that's more enduring, do you guys think?
I think specifically in this area, it is probably more enduring. In the Midwest, we have lots of farms and
right.
You're going to see that, I think, for a long time to come, but I think people are going to put their own stamp on it. Once you've got that neutral palette of, the white kitchen, then adding their own touches to that will make it sort of unique in their own.
I think the premises of the farmhouse style, like the large spaces for families to gather and that cozy feeling that people are wanting, I think that's here to stay. I think it'll evolve a little with the colors. Like right now, I feel like it's a lot of neutrals. I see like darker, richer colors coming in, more oversized lighting, like the iron fixtures, I think a lot of people like, but more oversized, not so mason jarry farmhouse.
Yeah, and lanterny. For a while, everything was lanterny or goosenecky. And I feel like that's changing a little bit.
Yeah.
We just got back from IBS and we saw so many of those warm colors that you were talking about. A lot of, the warm wood tones for cabinetry are coming in, and also the mossy greens, the painted finishes on cabinets were really popular too, which I always love. I think of green as a neutral, don't you?
Yeah, I agree.
Specifically, what shade of green, though? Because it's not
not a bright Kelly green, but more of like a mossy, soft kind of
like
green.
Rich green, yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you guys saying a lot of, it's looking at all of the materials as a group, as, the design boards that you see when you have different materials layered. If you're not doing something like that, you have a chance of leaning maybe one direction that you don't realize, like the green could end up very Tuscan if you're pairing it with other things and not setting it next to it. And
right.
It sounds a lot like the fixtures and things like that are almost the trends that are coming and going out of style, but those are easy to change.
Yeah, if you take a neutral background and then you add little touches, trendy touches, what is our famous line that we learned at IBS?
Trends are not our friends.
Yes. So if you're going to use your trends, I guess the whole point is to use them, sparingly in things that can easily be changed and updated if that's what you want to do. For instance, pillows and, maybe some artwork that could be changed out if you need to, that kind of thing. Even paint, really. I mean, how easy is it to just paint a room? Which is another, I don't want to call it a trend right now, but the whole color drenching thing is big right now too, which we did see a lot of that at IBS. And we do have a lot of people doing that.
Mm-hmm.
The color drenching, in my opinion, creates almost a 1920s kind of vintage formal vibe. I love it. It's like, I know it's a trend now, but I'm trying to convince my husband that it's not that trendy and we can do it in one of the rooms of our house. So
makes a statement for sure.
Yeah. So with the Mentels, you worked with their designer and you guys brought up the open spaces and things like that. So were they big entertainers, big family? What about this house specifically was customized, do you think, to their family that made it unique?
Yes, they were big entertainers, and she, the wife in particular, really wanted, a formal dining room, which I love what they did in the dining room. They had 2 chandeliers, beautiful chandeliers over the dining room table, and then they used some upholstered seating in there as far as bench seating, and it just gave it a nice, warm feeling. You talk about how do you personalize something. I think something like that is a great example of just taking and elevating, a typical dining room.
So the chandeliers, they were 2 wood beaded chandeliers, correct? So that's almost a coastal kind of look, don't you think? Or
it could be, I guess, if they were blue.
Yeah.
I think the beads add texture to the fixtures and to the room.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, these beads were like a dark charcoal gray, if I remember correctly. And then they were paired with sort of a soft champagne gold metal, which really, it was beautiful.
I thought it was neat how it was still a formal dining room, but it kept it cozy and comfortable by adding that texture. And you could very easily, if you were a more formal family, switch those out for like beaded chandeliers that are glass beads or something like that, right? Crystal.
More of a crystal.
Yeah. And there were a lot of sweeping design moments in that house too. One of my favorite views is standing in the kitchen and looking down through the dining room, and you can see the beaded chandeliers and things like that. There was also a really cool design moment in the primary bedroom, going through the bathroom with the wooden sliding door.
The barn door, which again is very farmhousey.
So, okay, quick question about that. So the sliding door, the barn door, does feel very on trend, if you will, for modern farmhouse. You wouldn't be able to change it out to a pocket door.
No.
No, you couldn't do a pocket door.
You could just do a 2-slab shaker instead of the beaded barn door. Yeah.
If you just decided that, okay, this is something I want to move on from. And
right.
So sliding doors in particular aren't the trend. It's the wood, the farm door,
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, that is very modern farmhouse. And I'm starting to see fewer barn doors in my house. My houses. What about you, Karla?
Yeah, I agree.
Also, I think the shiplap is starting to die down a little bit too. Now, we did use shiplap in the Mentel house. We did a beautiful shiplap over their range hood and, again, gave it that feel of the whole modern farmhouse. But I'm not seeing as much or using as much of that recently.
But the accent walls are not going out.
No, I think now a lot of people are using like the fluted wood detail on the walls to replace the shiplap.
You did a really cool millwork wall in the entryway of the Olms farmhouse that I thought it kind of almost a color drench-ish thing, right? Because there was the moldings and everything matched. But what made you guys decide to do that in that particular space?
It's really the only full wall in the foyer. And so they wanted kind of a focal wall to have the foyer set apart. And then they bought this beautiful console table with lamps to set up against it. Actually, and that foyer had a really cool light fixture too.
It really was.
That was a beautiful light fixture. And the wall turned out really nice too. It was really pretty.
There was a built-in in the
office.
Office across from it that kind of
custom built-ins in that similar color. Yeah, it kind of tied the spaces together.
I feel like those accent walls and those custom millwork pieces and fluting and things like that, that's really the hallmarks. That's what makes it not look like something you could just go and get, from
that adds all the character.
Right. And when you're building new, and I wonder almost if that's where that modern farmhouse style I know I was drawn to it whenever I first saw it, because you move into a builder grade home. And it is something that adds character and warmth pretty easily, no matter what you're building with, right? Or what your palette started with. So it seems like that's almost a way to make it stand apart.
Adding millwork to walls is a good way to create texture and layers in your house before you even get your furnishings in.
Right. And it's typically not, a huge investment cost-wise. But yeah, it does give a lot of impact.
So what are your favorite new modern farmhouse trends that you're seeing with stuff? Because it's not going away. So we've got the fluted walls. Another hallmark of modern farmhouse is the beamed ceilings. But you guys had mentioned in the past that you're starting to see kind of an evolution of those beams. They're changing a little bit.
Yeah, not so rustic, more of a little bit of a cleaner look.
You don't have as many of the metal straps.
Yeah, no metal straps.
Yeah, and I think that's true of the floors, too. We still do want, the wood floors and all that, but they're just not as rustic. And they're also actually darkening up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Before, when Modern Farmhouse first came out, it was, sort of that almost Scandinavian light wood. And now I've noticed a lot of my clients are doing darker woods. How about you, Karla?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Definitely less rustic, more smooth lines. You're still using natural elements to warm spaces up, but definitely cleaner silhouettes and...
I'm thinking industrial, but not cold, right?
Right.
So like that Shea McGee kind of spin. I always saw her as more of an industrial
classic contemporary.
Oh, there you go.
That what that is?
Good job, Karla.
My goodness.
Wow, I think we're done.
So light fixtures are changing away from goosenecks. We've got wider planked floors. We have cleaner lines. Not as many of the rustic metal strap elements like some of the modern farmhouses we built in the past. I mean, we've built a ton of them over the last 10 years, even used deconstructed materials from the barns where the home was being built on.
Right.
You wouldn't see as much of that anymore. It's cleaner, but still neutrals.
Right.
What else can someone look for to add updated modern farmhouse touch to their home?
Well, you can't forget a large front porch. I mean, you have to have, when you're talking modern farmhouse, you have to have a large front porch. And of course, along with that goes, the stained ceiling.
Stained, beautiful wood front door.
And if we could add a little bit of brick, that would be nice, whether it's on the front steps or maybe bricking the exposed foundation, which is always nice with a modern farmhouse. And I would even love to take that brick inside and do like a herringbone brick floor, which would be really...
The Wolskis had that in their wine room and in their mud room in their farmhouse. And I thought that was such a cool look.
Yeah, it's so pretty.
Yeah.
A fun way to add texture to the room.
Mm-hmm.
Any closing thoughts on the Mentel project that, anything else cool that maybe we didn't touch on, because there were just so many unique elements, and we are going to put photos of that home. We have them on our website, so we're going to link to that from the show notes for this episode, and so you guys can take a virtual tour through there. But anything else about the Mentel home that we didn't touch on, Ian?
Overall, it just is a very classic home combined with, the current trends of the time, which were, the modern farmhouse. And still that is, very popular. But I do think that, that is here to stay. But, as the years go by, it evolves and changes slightly.
All right. Well, thanks, Ian and Karla, for joining me in the conference room today to discuss Modern Farmhouse. And you guys can check out a lot of they don't just design for their own style. There is a variety that they design too. They work with all of our clients. And so just about anything we've built in the last 5 years, one or the two of them have had a major influence over. So you can check that out on our website. And thanks again, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Well, Melody, that was a very interesting conversation because one of the things I've noticed is that each market is absolutely unique, but they share some of the very same elements. And again, modern mountain, modern farmhouse, but there's a lot in common.
Right. I mean, you have stone and you have wood, but it's different take on stone, different take on wood. Talking about layering textures was, one of the big things. And if you look at pictures of both homes, which we'll link to in the show notes, you'll see you have accent walls in both markets, but they're very different take on an accent wall. So it's just kind of a cool compare and contrast. So.
It was, and it was a lot of fun. It was great having Elizabeth on the podcast, one of our favorite builds of all time. And then, of course, anytime you can have Ann and Karla join us on the podcast, to go back to the very beginning, we've hit a home run, right?
A knockout episode. How about that?
And that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. It was a knockout episode, and we look forward to more knockout episodes. But first, you have a little housekeeping to remind everybody of, don't you?
I do. I'm going to ask you once again, if you like the show, to subscribe and leave a review. It's always fun to hear what people have to say about what they're learning. So you can also email us, podcast@hibbshomes.com. You can give us a call at 844-HIBBS20, or you can find our community on Reddit to catch up on past episodes, or find us on Apple.
And we, of course, appreciate everyone's time in listening to this edition of the podcast. And, of course, we have many more coming as we continue season number 7 of our 20 for 20 with the Art of Custom. So we'll see everybody next time.
For more information, visit www.artofcustompodcast.com or find us on Facebook and LinkedIn as The Art of Custom. Be sure to subscribe to get the latest episodes, and please rate and review. The Art of Custom is produced by Hug Monster Sound with original music by Adam Frickfordine. Thanks for listening.